Hello everyone, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. You are audible.
Thank you, sir. I think resource person has joined, right?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, sir. Good evening, dear participants. So, welcome to the day 3 session of the 5 days national level online faculty development program on research methodology organized by IQAC of PDUAMT. Today's there will be 2 sessions in today's program. First session will be on sampling technique that will be delivered by Dr. Kaushik Kishore Fukon sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Information Technology of PDM Tulungia. And the second session will be on designing of questionnaire that will be delivered by Dr. Dibjyoti Kolita sir from the Department of Library and Information Science of Cotton University. So yesterday we learned how to conduct a review literature and how to formulate research hypothesis. So after review literature, um, choosing appropriate sampling technique and designing questionnaire according to research hypotheses and research objectives are next important and very crucial steps in the entire research process. So I hope both the sessions will be insightful today. And as a one humble request to all the participants, kindly do interact with the resource person. If the resource person assign any problem or provide assignment, kindly do respond to that. With this note, as there are 2 sessions today, so without any further delay, now I would like to request moderator of today's session, Mrs. Bonasri Deka, librarian of Central Library, PDM Tulungia, kindly to introduce resource person of first session. Madam, please kindly introduce the resource person.
Thank you, madam. Good evening, everyone. I welcome you all to this first session of today. Now, I would like to give a brief introduction of our resource person, Dr. Kaushik Kishore Fukon sir. He is currently working as an assistant professor, Department of Technology at Pandit Dindayal Upadhyay Adarsh Mahavidyalaya, Tulungia. He pursued PhD from Guwahati University in the year 2016 from Faculty of Technology and has 14 years of teaching experience at UG and PG level. Dr. Fukon sir has published several research papers with various national and international publishers indexed by Scopus, Web of Science, NAS, etc. His research interest includes graph theory, web mining, complexity modeling, clustering, and statistical modeling. Now, I'd like to request Dr. Fukon sir to deliver his talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonasri Deka madam, for the introduction. I am very much thankful to the organizing committee for giving me this opportunity. Dear participants, today is the third day of this national level faculty development program on research methodology, and we are going to discuss, today we are going to discuss sampling techniques. In the first day also, Professor Parag Silsar highlighted few important aspects of sampling, and I hope after today's session, you will be more confident about sampling than before. So let me share my presentation with you. Is it visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Uh, so, as the topic suggests, we need sampling in different situations, and that's why we are going to discuss sampling techniques. But let us start our discussion with the necessity of sampling with an example. So, so here we have so many tasty fruits on the screen. I'm sure that we all love to eat tasty foods. So from where we can get the fruits? From a fruit vendor in a marketplace. Uh, so suppose you are going there to buy grapes with good flavor. The only way to know whether the grapes in the shop are tasty or not is simply sampling. Users cannot eat all the grapes in the shop and refuse to buy any grapes because you find them to be sour. So, in our day to day life, we are applying various sampling techniques, knowingly or unknowingly, starting from choosing fruits and vegetables to the sophisticated exit polls. So, let us discuss about these techniques in a methodical way. So, kindly inform me if my voice is not clear or the slides is not visible to you. Kindly inform me. Uh, so, sampling. In sampling, we must have a population from where we try to obtain a group of elements which is smaller in number than that of the population and also represents different characteristics of the population up to a desired level. This smaller group representing the population is known as sample. So you can see on the screen, population is there, sample is there. So many techniques are there to select a sample from a population. And in the picture on the screen, you can see the words random selection. After selecting the sample, we can calculate different statistics based on the sample, like sample mean, sample standard deviation, sample proportion, etc. Then we use these statistics to draw inferences on population characteristic. So, in statistics, population and statistic are two very important terminology to remember. In simple words, a parameter is a number describing a whole population, where statistic is a number describing a sample. So you should be very clear about that. What do you mean by statistic? What is mean by statistic and what is mean by parameter? So very important terminology. If you a bit confused about statistic and parameter, you will be puzzled. Okay, so moving to our next slide. So the sampling process steps. Uh, how we can get a sample from a population? First of all, a clearly defined target population. You must have a clearly defined target population. The target population may be finite or infinite, but it should be clearly defined. You must have a sampling frame. Ideally, population and sampling frame is same, but it may differ significantly. Let us have an example. You want to study some behavior of people residing in a city. So the sample frame is the list of all people residing in the city on a particular date. But this may not be the population, as you are not considering foreign nationals in your city. So this is how population and sampling frame differ. If you have any confusion regarding sampling frame and a population, you may ask, but ideally it is the same, but not always. So next step is choosing a sampling techniques. So many sampling techniques are there that we are going to discuss. Then determine the sample size, a very complex thing. How to determine a sample? Not I say complex. It's simple. I will explain. I'm going to explain. Then collection of data and assessment of response time. We are going to discuss only the first 4 steps in the first session. I hope in the next session, questionnaire design, collection of data, etc. will be discussed. So this is our different sampling methods. So we have probability sampling and non-probability sampling. So we are going to discuss 4 common methods of probability sampling and 4 common methods of non-probability sampling, for namely simple random sampling, cluster sampling, systematic sampling, stratified random sampling falls in the category of probability sampling, and then convenience sampling, judgment sampling, snowball sampling, and quota sampling falls in the non-probability sampling. So what is a non-probability sampling? In case of non-probability sampling, it is up to the researcher what kind of sampling elements he want to study and how he will include the elements in the sample. So non-probability sampling is a method in which not all population members have an equal chance of participating in the study. Non-probability sampling is most useful for exploratory studies. Researchers use this method in studies where it is impossible to draw random probability sampling due to time or cost considerations. So it's a very simple thing, non-probability sampling. So researcher wants a group of people on the basis of his knowledge or some criteria, and he chooses that group and continue his study. So this is simply the non-probability sampling, but different types of non-probability sampling are there. Let us move to the next slide. So when to use non-probability sampling? Very important. When to use non-probability sampling? Here are few grounds for using non-probability sampling. Okay. If you don't have any idea or intention to generate results that will generalize the entire population, okay, you may use non-probability sampling. This is the first thing I am telling. If you wish to gather some preliminary idea about the population before starting the actual research, then also someone can go for non-probability sampling. Non-probability sampling is useful to conduct qualitative research, pilot studies, or exploratory research. If a particular characteristic exists in a population, then also one can use non-probability sampling. Time, budget, volume of work, these are some key factors influencing the research of a researcher. Very much important. His time, how much the researcher can give time to the for his or her research. Then budget, very important. Then volume of work, how he or she can afford. Okay, so one can use non-probability sampling if he or she is facing any such constraints. Okay, so the first kind of non-probability sampling, this is convenience sampling. Convenience sampling is used in exploratory research, where the researcher is interested in getting inexpensive approximation, okay, often used during preliminary research effort to get an estimate without incurring the cost or time required to select a random sample. So 6 advantages I have listed for convenience sampling. Okay. Collect data quickly, inexpensive methodology, easy to research, low cost, readily available sample, and fewer rules to follow. Okay. Then judgment sampling. So judgment sampling is also a non-probability sampling method. Sample is selected based on judgment. This may be an extension, this may be called an extension of convenience sampling, but there is significant difference between convenience sampling and judgment sampling. You cannot say that both are the same from any angle. When using this method, the researcher must be confident that the chosen sample is truly representative of the entire population. I have listed few characteristics of this judgment sampling also. Then next, the quota sampling. Okay. So quota sampling. What is quota sampling? Non-probability, definitely it's a non-probability sampling. First, identify the stratums and their properties as they are represented in the population. But first, what you have to do, you have to divide the population into stratums. As it is written here, it is the non-probability equivalent of stratified sampling. So first thing, a researcher must stratify the population. He or she should divide it into subgroups. Okay. Then the researcher may apply judgment sampling to select the sample, actual sample from the status. Okay, this is quota sampling, completely different from our previous two sampling techniques. Then next is snowball sampling. So this sampling is very unique, and with the help of this sampling technique, we can deal with very complex situations. Suppose you are going to study the behavior of persons suffering from some disease like AIDS or suppose drug addiction. So how to start? Can you select a random sample? Suppose a city contains 10,000 individuals and you have selected a random sample. Will the study be effective? Definitely no. So what you have to do? You have to search a person with such ailments. Okay. Then you must obtain some reference, because that person know some other person that yes, he is facing problems like me. Okay. So he will refer. And then the next person will also refer. That in that way, you have to spread your survey. Okay, so snowball sampling, a very important sampling to handle different complex situation. So you should be clear about that. Okay, so this is the next slide. That is showing the all 4 types of non-probability sampling: snowball sampling, quota sampling, judgment sampling, and convenience sampling. All are different. You can see very clearly in the picture. So snowball sampling, first you approach one, then you spread your survey. Quota sampling, you divide the status and then apply judgment sampling. Then judgment sampling, you apply your own judgment and select a sample from the population. Then convenience sampling, most convenient objects you include in your sample. So these are the 4 types of non-probability sampling. I hope it is clear to you. Okay, so next, probability sampling. So very simple. Probability sampling, we have certain elements, you assign numbers to them, and you can draw numbers by using lottery method or anything else, you will get a sample. So probability sampling. Okay, so probability sampling is the method of sampling in which every member of a population has a known non-zero chance of being selected for the sample. This type of sampling ensures that the sample represents the larger population, allowing researchers to make generalizations. Very important thing. What it will allow? It will allow the researchers to make generalizations from the sample to the population with a measurable degree of confidence. Okay. Okay. So when to use probability sampling? When you want to make generalizations. First point, when you need to conduct in-depth statistical analysis. Okay. Okay, in-depth. I'm using the word in-depth statistical analysis. You can do statistical analysis with the help of non-probability sampling also. Then when you have a well-defined and accessible population, when you are working with large populations, when reducing bias, very important, when you have the resources to conduct a structured sampling process. So these are the 6 situations I am stating in where you can go for, in which situations you can go for probability sampling. So the first type of probability sampling is simple random sampling. So simple random sampling, as the name suggests, you have a population and you need to select individuals from that population. Yeah. So here, each member of the population has equal chance of being selected. This is the most basic form of probability sampling. Okay, a common way to perform SRS is by using random number generators or drawing lots. For example, I have stated if you have a population of 40 people and you want to sample 4, each individual has a 10% chance of being chosen. Okay. So next, it is systematic sampling. So systematic sampling involves selecting every ant individual. So systematic sampling. Suppose in a classroom, we need a representative of 10 students, and the class contains 100 students. So how you can select? You can avoid random sampling and use systematic sampling in a very simple way. So every 10th individual, okay, roll number 10 got selected, 20, okay, then 40, okay, 50, okay, 60, 70, 80, and 100, okay. So systematic sampling, with the help of systematic sampling, we can very easily select a sample. We can very easily select a random sample. So before, simple random sampling and then systematic sampling, both differ significantly. Simple random sampling, we can use lottery method to draw, and then in systematic sampling, no need of any lottery, no need of any random number table. Just you choose a criteria. So you in the picture you can see we are starting from 2, then we are selecting the next 5, and then 8, and then 11, and it will continue. So very easy method. You can choose a random sample with this with the help of this systematic sample. Very easy. Moving to our next slide. So stratified sampling. So as I have stated before, this is an extension of anyone? Sorry, in non-probability sampling also it was there. It is similar to
quota sampling.
anyone? Exactly. Okay, thank you. So Stratified sampling divides the population into distinct subgroups or strata that share specific characteristics. Okay, suppose based on age, gender, income level, etc. You can divide the strata, and then individuals are randomly selected from each of these strata. The difference is that after dividing in stratas, we will select, or the researcher will select on the basis of randomly. They will select the individuals randomly. Okay. The aim is to ensure that every subgroup is properly represented in the sample. For example, if a researcher wants to understand the opinion of students in a college and the population is divided into subgroups based on grade level, the researcher would sample from each grade level to ensure proportional representation. I have stated two types of stratified sampling. Uh, Proportional stratified sampling and disproportional stratified sampling. So two types of samplings are there. So just I am stating, you may apply proportional stratified sampling and disproportional stratified sampling as per your research requirement. Okay. So next is cluster sampling. So cluster sampling, again, a unique type of random sampling. This sampling is used when the population is large and spread out over a wide area. The population is divided into clusters. A random selection of clusters is made, and then all individuals within the selected clusters are sampled. Okay, cluster sampling is useful when it's difficult or costly to conduct a simple random sample over a large area. But some constraints are there, some drawbacks are there. Definitely, some drawbacks are there. So in cluster sampling, what will happen? You form clusters first from the population. Okay, and then what you have to select? You cannot select individual here. You have to select the entire cluster. You have to select. You have to reject one entire cluster, or you have to select one entire cluster. Okay, so that will be your what is called sample. Okay, cluster sampling. So these I am listing here 4 types of probability sampling. The simple random sampling, individuals are there, you make selection randomly, then probability, next systematic sampling, a criteria is there to select, some criteria is there, based on that criteria you select individuals, and then stratified sampling, so you divide strata, you make proportional or disproportional. Okay, and then cluster, you make clusters, you reject a cluster, you select a cluster. Okay, 4 types of sampling. Very clearly, I am stating. I hope all are at this moment are clear about these 4 types of sampling: probability sampling and non-probability sampling. 4 types I have discussed. If any doubt, if any questions, you may ask. Otherwise, I am going to the next slide. Okay. Here I am showing a comparison of sampling methods. Okay. 4 parameters I have given: probability, random selection, bias risks, cost, and time. So it is, as you can see, random samplings, 4 are probability. Yes. First 4 are random sampling. Then next 4 are non-random sampling. Okay. So random selection is yes only in case of simple random sampling. In systematic sampling, random sampling, no random selection, all are No. Then bias risk. In case of simple random sampling, the bias risk is low, and in convenience sampling and judgment sampling, bias risk is high. So cost, where cost is low, in random sampling, cost is low, and very low convenience sampling, where cost is very low. High in stratified sampling, the cost is high. So a few examples are given. Okay. This first part is okay here. Then moving to the next part, the sample size determination. So as I have said, so many things to consider here. How to determine a sample size. I will give you a simple assignment here also. So you have to do the assignment. So let us proceed. So sample size determination is a critical aspect of designing a research study, as it directly impacts the reliability, validity, and generalizability of the findings. The sample size refers to the number of participants or observations included in the study. Determining the appropriate sample size ensures that the study has enough power to detect significant effects, reduce the margin of error, and achieve valid conclusions. So a few things here you should know, like simple things like type 1 error, type 2 error, etc. will come. So type 1 error, I hope if you have studied some statistics before, you can definitely recall. Type 1 error, rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true. Type 2 error, accepting the null hypothesis when it is false, etc. These things will come here. Sample size determination. Okay. So here is the population, and the first question comes to a researcher: what will be my effective sample size? What sample size will be best for my research? I have planned my research. I have set my objectives. I have selected the sampling technique, whether it is random sampling, non-random sampling, stratified sampling, quota sampling, judgment sampling. You have decided. After that, the most important question is, what will be the right sample size? What will be the right sample size for my research? What is sample size? Here we will discuss. Okay, what is sample size? All you know. Why to worry about sample size? Which factors would impact it? Is there a formula? Okay. So moving to the next slide. Why sample size is important? So statistical power. The power of a study is the probability that it will detect an effect. If there is one, when it is present, a sample that is too small may lead to a type 2 error. Okay. While a sample that is too large could waste resources and time. The next point is the precision. Larger samples generally provide more precise estimates of the population parameters, okay? Like means or proportions, with a smaller margin of error. But how much? It should be large to what extent? Larger to what extent? Okay. So then generalizability. The term is, before we have also discussed the term generalizability. A sufficiently large and representative sample helps ensure that the results of the study can be generalized to the broader population. Then ethical consideration, very important. Ethical consideration, determining the correct sample size helps avoid overuse of resources or exposure of participants to potential risks unnecessarily. It ensures that only the required number of participants is involved, balancing ethical considerations with the scientific needs. So, these are the 4 main points I have stating why sample size is important. Why sample size is important for your research. Then key factors affecting sample size determination. So many factors are there. I am stating only the key factors. Okay. The confidence level. The confidence level indicates how sure you are that the true population parameter lies within the margin of error. Common confidence level are 90, like 90%, 95%, 99% confidence level. Okay. A higher confidence level means a larger sample size is needed to be more certain about the results. For instance, a 99% confidence level would require a larger sample size than a 95% confidence level. Okay. Then margin of error, that means precision. The margin of error represents the range within which the true population value is expected to fall. A smaller margin of error requires a larger sample size. For example, in a suppose the margin of error is 3%, 1%, 5%, etc. Okay. Then the population size. Population size. Population size also matters in selecting sample size. This factor I am going to explain how population size is responsible for sample size. What is the impact? You will see, you will get it. So then population variability. Okay. More variation means you need more representatives. Okay. Standard deviation is more. That means you need larger sample. Then effect size. Effect size refers to the magnitude of the difference you expect to detect. A larger effect size typically requires a smaller sample size. Okay. Whereas detecting a small effect requires a larger sample to ensure sufficient power. Then type of study design. Different research design. What type of research? Experiments, observational studies may require different sample size depending on the complexity of the study, and statistical analysis to be performed also matters. Okay. Then ways to determine sample size. So sample size determination, I have already said this is not a very easy thing. So these are the 5 different ways to determine a sample size using a census for a small population where feasible. What you have to do, you just study the whole population. If the population is small, suppose 500, okay, you study the whole population, no problem. Imitating a sample size of similar studies. Yesterday, Burman sir has explained all about literature review. Okay, so if you are good in literature review, you can find similar studies to your research, and just you state that that researcher is using this amount of this size of sample to do his or her study. So I am also using, you just refer it. Okay, it will be sufficient. Then the third step, using published tables. Some tables are there, applying formulas to calculate sample size and using software. Okay. So first, two things, no problem. Small population size, you used census method. You study the whole population. Then second, based on a literature review, you cite some research using published tables. We have some published tables to determine as the sample size. Then you can use the formulas, and then using softwares are there. Okay. So this is a table. You can see sample size of the population 500 and precision level 3%. It is suggesting what? It is suggesting for the complete enumeration up to 900, up to 1000. It is suggesting at 3% precision level. It is suggesting complete enumeration. At 5% precision level, you can take 222, 222. But does the population size have a very impacting the sample size? You see, 10,000. You see the size 10,000. Okay, 5% at precision level 5%. You can see for 10,000 population size, you need a sample size of 385. After that, it somewhat become constant. Then you see, if the population size grows more than 1 lakh, then only you have to take the sample size 400. Okay, just 15 more than 10,000. So as the population increases, it will have less impact on the sample size. As the population size increases, it has less effect on the sample size. That is the thing I want to explain you. Very important. You can see from this table given by Yemen. Okay, you can find it. You can find this table anywhere. If you search on Google, you will find anywhere. You can find it. Okay, available. Okay, after this table, let us move to formula. Okay, so this is a popular formula. This is a popular formula, popularly known as Cochrane's formula. Okay, Cochrane's formula. Okay, so n, small n is the sample size. Z value depends on the desired confidence level. So if 5% 95% confidence level, the Z value is 1.96. P, estimated proportion. If unknown, use 0.5 for maximum variability. E, margin of error. Okay, 5% at 5% confidence. At 5% margin of error, the value is 0.05. Okay, so this is a very popular formula, and you can see in the formula there is no impact of the population size. Okay, no impact of the population size, because population size is not there in the formula. There is no population size. Okay, so the formula is independent of population size. So Cochrane formula, one example is here. Suppose we are doing a study on the inhabitants of a large town and want to find out how many households serve breakfast in the mornings. We don't have much information on the subject to begin with. Okay, so we are going to assume that half of the families serve breakfast. We will just assume. This gives us maximum variability. So P is equal to 0.5. Now let's say we want 95% confidence and at least 5% plus minus. Okay, precision, plus minus 5%. Okay. So a 95% confidence level gives us Z value of 1.96 per the normal table. So we get, according to the formula, if you calculate, we will get a population, a sample size of 385. Okay. In the table also I have mentioned you 385. I have pointed it. Okay. So random sample of 385 household in our target population should be enough to give us the confidence levels we need. Okay. So any question regarding this 385? Because after this I am going to give you an assignment. Based on this example, you have to do an assignment. So what is the assignment? Very simple. Don't worry, I will give the answer also, but you have to send it. Okay. So the question is, a preliminary sample of 100 inhabitants of a large town was selected through pilot survey to find out how many households serve breakfast. It was found that 50 of the selected households opt for breakfast. How large a sample must be selected to have a precision of plus minus 5 with 95% confidence? Okay. You need to send this assignment. You solve this. You determine the size. If anyone is, you can do it now also and say to me. The answer is very easy. But you have to do the assignment and take a photograph and submit it to PDUAMT IQAC@gmail.com. You write the subject as FDP assignment and you write your name there. So you send it to this email. So I can give you 2-3 minutes to solve this problem. If anyone can solve this problem and have the answer, please let me know. Anyone from statistics background?
Sir, I do have a question. Like, can you please show the formula, the Cochrane's formula, because it was not visible. Sir,
Sure.
please.
This one.
It will be always 384 point something or 385 actually. Is it so, sir?
Yes. No, the answer is for this question. The answer is
Cochrane formula is to be used. It is always 384, 385, sir.
okay. You are getting. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Please solve this problem as I have given you. I will also show the solution. I'm going to show it. Okay, but your answer is correct. You are getting it. Thank you. From your name, please.
Sir, I'm Haripriya.
Okay. ভালে আছা হরিপ্রিয়া?
আছো স্যার, ভালে আছে ন?
ঠিকই আছে Thank you.
হ'ব স্যার।
Then for estimating a mean, a slight modification is there. N is equal to sample size, then a Z value, sigma, the population standard deviation, and margin of error. Okay, slight modification is there. Just I am stating the formulas. I have because time will not permit me to explain these formulas. So you can study books. You can go for searching these formulas, and you can just study it. Okay, I am just stating that different formulas are available to determine desired sample size. So for two means, comparing two means. So we are using different tests in statistics, t-test, f-test, etc. for comparing two means. Okay, suppose your intention of the research is to comparing two means. So how to determine your sample? So this is the formula. Okay, sample size, Z value, then Z beta power, desired power. One more thing is here, we will require both Z alpha and Z beta. Then sigma is there, then delta is there. Okay, expected effect size. So in various situations, the method is different. So kindly go through it. Formulas are available. Don't confuse, and have a proper analysis. Okay. Then software. Different softwares are there. Using which we can determine a sample size. For name a few, the Z Power, a free software that can calculate sample sizes for various statistical tests. Then RSoft, an online calculator that helps determine sample size for surveys. Then EPI Info, this is a tool available for a Center for Disease Control, CDC, tool from the CDC for calculating sample sizes in public health research. So other softwares are also available. I am just stating 3 of them. So you go for softwares. If you are a bit confused about these formulas, okay, you can go for softwares. So this is a concluding slide. Sample size determination is a crucial step in the research process, ensuring that the study has enough statistical power to detect meaningful results while minimizing unnecessary cost and risks. The right sample size balances confidence, precision, and resource constraints, allowing researchers to make valid interfaces from the data. Properly accounting for factors like the confidence level, margin of error, population variability, and effect size ensures that the study produces reliable and generalizable results. Okay, so research efficiency is there, time saving, sampling, it's manageable, statistical inferences we can draw in a deeper sense. Okay, then ethical considerations. All these things I have explained in my prior slides. So I am just stating. So this is my conclusion. Then references, you can study these books, very good books, Cochrane, Sampling Techniques. If you if you want a very solid concept in sampling, you can go for these books. Then Yemen, then S.C. Gupta and V.K. Kapoor, very good book, Fundamentals of Statistics. We have studied statistics a bit. Everyone knows this book, S.C. Gupta and V.K. Kapoor. Then Sampling Theory and Surveys with Applications. The last one, this is also a good book for 4 books I have stated, and references with like that. So what is remaining? The solution of the problem. Okay, this is the same problem. But I have written in a different way. Nothing else. Okay. So solution also I am giving. Okay. So this is the solution. As we know, sample size for large population can be calculated with the help of the full formula. So what is given? So P is not directly given here. So how we are determining P? With the help of a pilot survey. Okay. So initially we may not have any idea about the population. So how to know the population? How to know the population? Suppose you don't have any idea about the population. Okay. So the only way to know some characteristics about the population is to do a pilot survey first. So you will get some knowledge. So that's why I am stating the problem. So you can get the proportion P value by conducting a pilot survey. No other way left. If nothing is there, you cannot get any idea about the population. So you have to do a pilot survey first before conducting the actual research. So here we are getting the value of the proportion 0.5 from a pilot survey. So Z, actually it is a reliability coefficient. The value is, I have already stated, 1.96. Then margin of error, I have in the question it is stated it is 5%, that is 0.5. Again, the result will be 385. So this is a sincere request to all of you. Please solve the problem and send it to the email. So I have given you the solution also. No problem is there. Okay. With this, I'm concluding my talk. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir. Now it is open for the participant. If they have any query regarding this topic, they can ask, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Is there any question?
Thank you, Fukun sir, for the nice presentation. Yes.
Ma'am, actually, I have a question.
Yes,
Like
please ask.
I just wanted to know, sir, what is the main difference between the convenience sampling and judgment sampling? Because it sounds like almost the same. Like as you say that
Exactly.
judgment sampling is almost the extension of the convenience. But then what is the major difference between the two, sir? If you can explain that.
Okay. So see, judgment sampling. Can you see the picture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So judgment sampling has a major difference with convenience sampling. Okay. Suppose you are doing a research and you want to select a sample from the population. Suppose in a convenient way. Suppose your house is located nearby a shopping mall. So you can target your object. That means you can target your persons by standing nearby the shopping mall. That is most convenient for you. That is convenience sampling. But judgment sampling, you have to apply your judgment. You may not get you may not get the objects you are searching for nearby the mall. Okay, so you have to move. You may have to move to get your objects in a different place. So that is judgment. Okay, yeah, convenience sampling not always effective. So in that case, you have to apply your judgment sampling because your analysis will not give any useful result if you do not apply convenience sampling and judgment sampling in a well-planned manner. Okay. So the picture itself describing convenience sampling, select the sample that is readily available as per your convenience, readily available as per your convenience. Judgment sampling, forget about your convenience. You apply your judgment where you have to go for the required objects. Okay, you have to go, you have to move, you have to leave your convenience. You have to go out of the your convenience. Okay, so that's
Yes,
all.
sir. Yes, sir. Sir, another question like that came into my mind. That is, like as you were talking about, when we have a small population, the sample size smaller, then we have to have a precision level of about 99%, I think. And when it is very large, then the precision level should be, I mean, can be around 90% or 95% like that. Is it so, sir?
No. It will depend on your research objectives. In some research objectives, 95% confidence level will serve your purpose. In some research objective, it must be 99%. In some research objectives, it is 90%. Okay, so it will depend on the research objectives. So what confidence level the research need. Okay, definitely. Sample size, there will be a difference in sample size. You can see this table. You can see this table. Yes, exactly. You see, 3%. Uh, uh, just 3% means 97% confidence level. So sorry, 3% precision level, and confidence level is 97% exactly. So here you see, uh, if the population size is 500, you must enumerate all the objects. You must enumerate all the objects. Yeah, if the population is 900, then also the table is, it's 1000, then also the table is suggesting 100% enumeration at the 3% level. Definitely at a 1% precision level, definitely you need complete enumeration. Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. At the end of the first session, I would like to thank our resource person, Dr. Kaushik Kishore Fukan, sir, for his valuable time and efforts. Sir, your insightful talk on sampling techniques will be highly beneficial for the participants. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
As our resource person for second session has already joined the meeting, we are going to start the session without any delay. For the second session, we have with us Dr. Dipjyoti Kolita sir. He will cover the topic designing of questionnaire. Now, I'd like to give a brief introduction of our esteemed resource person. First, I welcome Dr. Kolita sir. Dr. Dipjyoti Kolita sir is presently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Library and Information Science, Cotton University. He possesses a good interest in research and loves a collaborative learning environment. He also worked as assistant professor ad hoc at Department of Library and Information Science, Assam Women University, Jorhat, and also served as permanent librarian at SPP College, Sibsagar. Dr. Kolita sir has completed his post-graduation in 2015 from Guwahati University. He did his PhD from Guwahati University on the topic Semantic Web and worked on development of a knowledge graph for the traditional dance practices of the Raga tribes of Assam. He has a strong research interest in the domain of scientometrics, knowledge management, and use of artificial intelligence in modern information retrieval practices. Now it is over to you, sir. You can start your talk. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I hope I am audible to all of you, right? Bonasi,
Yes,
I'm
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I hope you have a very good discussion on sampling and its various methods of sampling in a research process. So after sampling, definitely what arrives is your data collection part. And for data collection, definitely in social sciences, even in many science disciplines nowadays, they use a certain specific tools to collect the data so that you get a very systematic way of fulfilling your objectives and whatever hypothesis you have derived for your research purpose. So I will try to cover each aspect of research, how you should collect data, and in that whole questionnaire process, how you should be designing it, what are the various parts of a questionnaire, and sorry, and what are the various problems that we faces in uh, collecting data through a questionnaire. Along with questionnaire, how we are going to interpret the data, that is the data analysis part, which is very crucial for your fulfilling the objectives. So we'll try to map these things, like if you have a question, then what to be the follow-up statistical analysis. In that, we will try to have a discussion over it. And I shall share my screen, and please uh, inform if my screen is visible to all of you. I will share. So my PPT screen is available to all of you. It's saying it's designing of a questionnaire. It's
Yes,
visible, I guess.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Thank
Visible
you.
it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we'll start the discussion. I have already mentioned this may be 6 points of our discussion today. We'll try to understand what are the dependencies of a perfect questionnaire, what are the different parts that should be there in a particular questionnaire, Along with those parts, what may be the various types of questions we should be putting in the questionnaire? Because based on the type of questions only, the related statistical measures will follow. And for these statistical measures, we'll definitely face some problem with questionnaire. That means how we will be framing the questionnaire. An important part is IPR issues with questionnaire. Nowadays we often see that I am conducting a survey. People have already copied my questionnaire and they have started data collection and they have already published it before I finish my questionnaire. So if we face those issues, what kind of legal perspective that may be there? So all these 6 issues we'll try to cover in this particular discussion today. So we all know what is a questionnaire. Questionnaire is a possibility or a tool through which we will just go in the market and try to collect data to fulfill our objectives. So it's like the cartoon is showing, it's like throwing around, giving our questionnaire to everyone and get whatever data we get and then publishing our research. But one thing I'll also associate that we think that questionnaire is only for primary data collection only. In general, yes, it is only used for primary data collection. But nowadays, in a more systematic way, it is also utilized for secondary data collection tool. For example, you are making a content analysis is a very important trend of research nowadays. Suppose you are from mass communication and journalism or you are from environmental studies and you want to cover the stories of how human elephant conflict has been covered in the newspapers of Assam, because nowadays human elephant conflict is very much on increasing side. So in that cases also nowadays people use a certain set of questions to collect that content related data for their analysis. And in a more scientific way, even in the field of nowadays comparative studies are very common in specific disciplines. Earlier, it used to be a comparative studies used to be a part of literature field only. So identifying specific characteristics of a specific literary content can also be done through questionnaire, because one thing will be there that primary data collection, you will have a different sample to respond to your questionnaire. In secondary data collection or for comparative studies, you will have a different set of samples to fulfill your research objectives. But yes, in every case nowadays, we use questionnaire to collect our data. And in any case, you go on designing a questionnaire, even if for primary data collection, even for your secondary data collection, and even for making a proper comparative study, the dependencies of a questionnaire remain same. Obviously, it is very much obvious that your first dependency, your objectives, methodology, or the hypothesis that you have framed for your study. These are the common thing, and based on these only you are going to have your questionnaire. For example, you are having 4 or 5 objectives in your study. So definitely in the questionnaire, there will be 3 or 4 questions for each of the objectives that you have set, because your objectives will be set based on the responses that you are going to get to a certain series of questions. That is what generally done in any kind of research studies, which you probably have already encountered. The second point that follows after objectives methodology is who will be your respondents. That means your sample. That is, what is the audience of your sample who is going to give response to the questionnaire. Are they really literate? What is their age? What is their level of understanding on the subject? These are these characteristics of the sample will always be there, based targeting whom you are going to frame your questionnaire, and based on why probably we have already discussed the various sampling techniques and various uh, uh, sampling methods. So this is a key part of designing a good questionnaire. The third part is, what is the statistical measures that you have identified? You may be using always needing the descriptive statistics, you may be needing the inferential statistics. So many times we forget this part, statistical measures or your hypothesis, or what type of statistical measures that you will going to need for fulfilling the research objectives. So this is always the third important part of the identified statistical measures, because statistical measures will also be dependent on the amount of sample that you have. The third component that comes is your research design. How do we approach the problem that we have identified? What the existing literature speaks. That means if you are conducting a survey, yes, obviously, suppose you want to conduct a survey, what is the online interaction of students on social media, and if it has affected the study of their students. So it is a very common of research, but always there is a scope of improvement in that study. So already there may be multiple series of papers which has already been published in the topic. So we'll study those, what has been the research gaps in those things, you will understand, and then you are going to approach the problem in a very new, different way. And for that purpose, definitely you will need a questionnaire which is different from the existing one. And now the copy of plagiarism will come up, because whenever you are touch a already existing topic, the copy of chances that you may be copying other questions, or if you did a very novel study which has not been done yet, your questions may be copied in a different way. So all these 4 or 5 dependencies you have to keep in mind while designing a good questionnaire for conducting that study. And along with the dependencies, what are the various parts of the questionnaire? Generally, whatever I'm mentioning here, it is not a very written thing. It is a simple understanding that we can divide a questionnaire based on these 3 parts. So there will be a very common thing in every questionnaire that we have answered. This common part, what they are going to like, this will contain questions that represents your study sample. It will contain basic demography essential for the people to understand your findings. Already in the sampling part, I have had the opportunity to listen to some of your questions like your demography is essential, because based on the demography also probably your convenience or judgmental sampling made kind of. Suppose you want to study what is the shopping behavior of the youth. So in that purpose, definitely you have to give a proper demography. Who are the youths in your study? Because for some person below 25 years may be youth, but for some person below 40 years may be your youth. So that is why you have to have a very common part that will describe the basic demography of your population among whom you have conducted the study. So it's a very common part in any questionnaire you do. And then your body part, that means questions which are associated with your research objectives, that will follow. Again, you can divide this body part to various sections based on the objectives of your study, but these are the common part in any kind of questionnaire you visit. Always there will be 3 or 4 questions which will represent your demography of the sample or the population that you are studying, and which is very essential to digest of the findings that you have made. And in a questionnaire, what may be the various type of question that you may encounter? Generally, these type of questions are also called the level of measurements that you are doing through the questionnaire. In very example, that first type is the category type of questions. We have always encountered this category type of questions, and these are generally used in the common part, that is demography part of your research questionnaire. These are also called as nominal, just to indicate, okay, you are asking people what is your gender, male or female, because you want to categorize the sample based on that. Then, along with nominal, there will be ordinal type of question. For example, instead of asking everyone their age, we can put a order. My age is below 10 years, 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, and above 25 years. So you want to have an order of the categories that you have already identified. Ordinal and categorical same only. Ordinal will be of more structure than the categorical type. And last we have our continuous questions. That means questions which are essential for your objectives. And it can be both open and close-ended. Open-ended is what? Close-ended questions provide participants with options to answer. This is why it is called these 2 things should have been intersect. And close-ended questions are that you will give some options to answer, and open-ended questions what you will do, they will give response what they think about. Again, this open-ended and close-ended both can be part of this categorical, ordinal, or continuous type of questions. So this categorical, ordinal, or continuous, this can be a very larger umbrella of category of questions, and open and close-ended are very the smaller umbrellas of category of questions in a questionnaire, based on which we are going to frame our desired data collection points. And benefit of open-ended questions. The main benefit of open-ended question is that they will provide you with a very wealth of information. Because in close-ended, you will give some options based on which they will just choose, or they will answer and their answer will be limited to what options you give. But open-ended questions always give a very wealth of information. For example, you are likely to get a wide variety of responses if you ask people for suggestion about reducing crime in your neighborhood. If you give some ask this question, The responses would like to include things that you have never thought of before and would not have added it as discrete choices in close-ended version of the same question. Suppose for this particular question, how should the crime should be reduced in your neighborhood? In close-ended, you will give some options. Okay, there should be police duty, there should be a voluntary crime checking, there should be a street light CCTV. These are the limited options. But when you ask open-ended questions, there may be wealth of information in getting responses to those questions. The main drawback is that whoever will be responding to your questions, they may become fatigued or overlap your potential respondent and possibly resulting in a fear people completing it. And again, there are some other limitations of open-ended questions also. But close-ended questions, there are multiple categories of close-ended questions in a questionnaire. And these are actually based on the variable size. So dichotomous is one type of close-ended question. Multiple choice single answer is one type. Multiple choice check all that apply. We have already encountered this kind of questions. Likert rating scale, semantic differential rating scale, matrix rating scale. These all are dependent based on the dependent or the type of variable the answer of this questions is going to satisfy. Based on that only, the categories of these close-ended questions has been made. So in the next slide, we are going to discuss what is a dichotomous question, how the answer to a dichotomous response should be satisfied statistically, or how it should be represented in our research papers to these questions. So for example, what is a dichotomous? Dichotomous is nothing but a categorical question. It is the simplest form of close-ended question where you give respondents just two options for answering. For example, yes or no. And adding codes like this to printed service greatly expedites the data entry process, and numbers are more efficient to store in computers than text. It is just because most of the days we use online questionnaire. This categorical dichotomous questions will have only two options to choose. And how we are going to analyze this type of dichotomous questions. For example, you have a question, have you driven a motor vehicle for at least once per month in the last 12 months? Yes, there are two options, yes or no. Now, how this is going to generate data? This is going to generate data in this way, yes or no, and then you will represent it in some percentage. Okay, out of the total population, 88% have driven a vehicle and 12% have not driven a vehicle. So this is the most simplest way of representing your study finding for dichotomous answers. And multiple choice single answer. The most common version of multiple choice survey question involves forcing the respondents to choose just one answer from the list provided. The answer choices should not overlap. That means these should be mutually exclusive, and everyone should be able to find an answer that works, even if it requires adding other as an option. What it is meaning is that if you think for a particular question, this may be the answers, the option should be exhaustive enough so that there is no biasness in the answering process. And what is the most proper way of representing things? So this is way. So what is your age if you ask? So these are the options that we have gave, some ordinal or cases of categories. Then they are going to give us responses. And then we'll have an analysis. Okay, in my grand total of 209, 18 to 24%. How many responded? 20. That is 9.6% are in this age group. In this age group, that means a percentage distribution of such multiple choice questions can be done. There are other ways of making statistical analysis also. We will also discuss those things. This is the most simplest way of presenting our questionnaire data of our multiple choice questions. Then multiple choice check that all apply. This is where you give check boxes. What is your race? I can also check these options like I am Asian, I am native Hawaiian, or some other race. Both we can select. And how do I analyze it? We can analyze it based on the categorical variables. That means already I have a race of white and then non-white. For non-white also, we have also categorized them in this two mix up of categories. This is what for check all that apply type of questions. And again, Likert scale is the most proper way of making quantitative conclusion to your studies. Rating scales differ from multiple choice items in that the latter usually asks a respondent to pick a discrete option from a list of arbitrary ordered categories. In other words, the options provided may not have an inherent quantitative value that allows you to order them meaningfully from low to high. Rating scale assesses where someone falls along a single container. That you want to create an opinion on a certain thing. obviously they will strongly agree to strongly disagree scale. It may be 1 to 5, 1 to 7, 1 to 10 in any way. And the most proper way of making Likert scale is we can have our own categorization. For example, rate your level of agreement with the following statements. The way people drive here makes me worry about my own safety. The way people drive here makes me worry about the safety of my family. The way people drive here makes me think about moving away from the city. So these are the 4 questions we have. And for these 4 questions, we have these 4 options of choosing them. And how do we analyze it? We can analyze it by categorical analysis. For example, there are certain respondents who think that it's a biggest threat for them. There are certain respondents who is worried of their own safety. There are certain who is worried of their family, and there are certain responses who thinks that they should be leaving the city. Now, they can make a categorical answer like that. There are how many percentage of them are thinking of moving away from the city? How many percentage are feeling safe, safety challenges for their family, and how many percentage are feeling safety challenges for their own? So this is one way of arranging our Likert scale data set, because this is making the data more conclusive and more satisfactory and more higher possibility of agreement for the readers. And for graphical, if you want to follow, you can have a block spot of distribution. For example, this is one question I have: what is the main challenges faced in preserving indigenous knowledge in a college library? I have given them for these 4 options. And what is the rating of these 4 options? I can make a box plot. This type of graphics really helps us to understand that, okay, for this particular question 1, C1, the response is splitting from 3 to 6. That means respondents will be able to understand this is the basic level of satisfaction among the users for this particular basic level of agreement to this particular C1 challenge, and this is their range. So box plot is one way of representing graphically, and percentage analysis is one way of doing a quantitative analysis on Likert scale studies. And there is another way of doing a semantic differential rating scale. This is second type of rating scale. Semantic differential rating scale is used to assess a person's attitude or feeling towards a given object, event, or construct. The primary features distinguishing this item from Likert scale is that the latter forces the surveyor to make a clear statement in one direction or the other, then the people to respond it. Example, if you see the example, you are going to understand it. For example, this is the example of a particular Likert scale or semantic differential rating scale. What we ask, how safe is it to drive in public streets in a certain Sahara city? We have given them to respond in a Likert scale. Now, what we did is that we have given an average rating. Okay, the safety is around 7.8%. It is their a minimum satisfaction level. But what is the percentage of people who is feeling unsafe? That means here what we have here, it is the person answering 4 or less. Out of 10, if someone have answered 4, we have told that they feel unsafe in driving in the particular city. So we have given it 2 options here. Earlier in percentage case, it was not representative of the whole scenario or whole story. Here, it is representative of the whole story. Even though it has got 7.8 out of 10, which is a very good score. Out of 10, 7.8 means it's a very safe to drive. But there are still certain 9.1% of population who thinks that it is not safe enough. Because average may increase if certain percentage of people give rating of 10. Average will decrease if a very certain percentage of people gives a rating below, because average, the higher values will skew the average below. So semantic differential rating scale will represent both way. One, they will represent the average, and one option of showing how many percentage have given low rating to that particular question or questionnaire. So matrix rating scale is combination of both. An efficient way to incorporate rating scale in survey, including Likert scale and semantic rating scale, is to present them in a matrix rather than having individual questions. The example is here. For example, I have identified these 4 topics, and for 4 topics combinedly, I have asked them to respond. And from the response, we will have this data set looking like this. For example, how many things that problem of speeding is a problem in driving, problem of speeding in residential areas. There is certain responses we have given 1, and there are certain responses given 0 rating to that particular question. Now, what do you think? You give a perceived traffic safety problems. Here you can present a data set like this. failure to yell, pedestrian aggressive driving, how many things? It's a minor problem, 39%. And major problem, 40%. So your questionnaire should be designed in such a way that you can have a proper statistical understanding of the response that you are going to get for your data set. So close-ended questions can be interpreted in these 6 different ways, and their identified statistical measures are also we have discussed here. Now, how do you approach the open-ended questions? Because for open-ended questions, they will just write an answer. The first way of analyzing an open access question is that first you read many, if not all the responses, and identify 6 to 10 most common things that they have answered. If you have got responses of 100, read at least 50 and try to identify the common themes of the responses. Now you should clearly articulate each theme and differentiate it as much as possible from the others. You would then read the first response and check off all the themes that apply. That means you have 6 or 7 themes that you have identified. You read the first comment and put it in one of the themes that you have identified. That means you categorize it. So it's like of having a questionnaire to analyze the open-ended question. You repeat this until you have coded all the responses, and at this point you can calculate frequency of each of the theme and extract simple responses to share over others. Let us see the example. For example, you have asked a question: what could the police department do to improve the traffic safety in your community? And these are the open-ended responses we have got. And these are the various themes that we have identified: enforce traffic law, increase officers patrolling, provide information to public, improve or maintain roads, bike lanes, sideways, reduce the speed limit, and put speed camera and red light. Suppose this comment falls on these 2 themes, so we'll give it yes, this falls in these 2 themes, and other themes are blank for this particular open-ended question. Suppose this theme, this question falls under this theme, this answer falls under this theme, this answer falls under this theme. So in that way, we can analyze the thematic areas of responses of the open-ended question, and then we can analyze what is the most common theme that is appearing among the open-ended responses. So in that way, we probably will come up some innovative ideas from the commonality of responses or the themes that we have got in the open-ended questions. And one interesting way is to present them in the order. In one nowadays, most of the natural language processing tools are there. You just give what the responses that you have here to those natural language processing teams, and it will generate a word cloud like this. It's a very interesting way of complementing your open-ended responses. But the problem is, which one to choose? You are going to choose open-ended question or close-ended question for your particular question. Because for close-ended question, the researcher has to make a proper study of probable responses. If you don't make proper study, your questionnaire will be weak. And if your questionnaire weak, your analysis will be weak, and ultimately your research will be weak. So making a choice is very difficult. If you're talking about something like a person's current age, it is very usually straightforward. You can have a close-ended question. But same example you have given, if someone asks someone's preferred strategy of preventing crime, it may be better to go for a open-ended question. Now, my one question is that if you get a questionnaire for yourself, which type of question you will be very much eager to answer? If you get an open-ended question, do you really respond to open-ended question? And what is our responses to multiple choice questions when we get? Because whenever we get multiple choice question, it will hardly take 5 to 6 minutes of filling the question, so we'll usually respond to it. But when you put open-ended questions, it's very difficult to think and write because we are not always on the current state of mind of thinking the problem that the researcher is asking. So it's better to have a mix-up of opinion. If we have a 10 question, put one open-ended question so that the responses give his responses, and other thing you put as a multiple choice question. Again, multiple choice question before putting, have a thorough reading of already existing literature, what problem has already been addressed for that particular question. Now, one very common problem is questionnaire is that there are multiple ways of answering the question. For example, if you ask someone what is the time, one answer may be it is 7 p.m. Okay, 7 p.m. is a dinner time. I can call it's dinner time. Okay, I am loving a movie, and so I may answer it's a movie time. So there are multiple ways of answering the question, and these multiple ways may not be satisfactory for your research. Again, how do it is dependent on these multiple ways of question. The answer to a question always dependent on how the respondent have understood the question. This understanding will be dependent on the respondent's individual tacit knowledge on the topic. And moreover, most of the responses give social desirability. They are causing social desirability answer. What are the three things we'll discuss? For example, if your respondent have understood the question, I will request you to read this cartoon. So in this question, I suppose what it is asking. So your birthday is 12th November. The questioner, researcher asking what year? The respondent is saying that it is every year 12th November is my birthday. It is a probable good answer or right answer for a question. What is your birth year? Every year, 12th November is my birthday. So it is essential that the respondents understand your question, what you are asking. Next, even if he understand how he is going to respond, researchers have found that the way you group responses or options in a close-ended question, assessing frequency or quantity, can also influence how people respond to it. Generally, what happens if I give 5 options? In most cases, we choose the middle one. In most cases, you ask yourself also, how do you go? If you are unsure about the answer, if you are unsure what it is asking, you generally go for the middle option to be on the average side. Now, I ask you, how many times in the past month did you see someone driving 10 kilometer an hour above the speed limit in your neighborhood? So as I am asking 10 kilometer, even though I have seen people driving 40 kilometer, 50 kilometer, the probability is that I may be choosing 5 to 9 or 10 to 14. Even though my true nature, whatever I have seen, maybe it is 2021. So for the same question, if you give the options like this, probably the probability of getting the right answer from the respondent is maybe high. That means putting your options in a certain way. Again, you have to be very much careful about putting the options so that there is no biasness in the answer scheme. One option that is always this, that it is on the individual's knowledge on the topic also. It is not like I know nothing about the subject, but I have to give my expert opinion. This is where the judgmental sampling might come up. I should go if the person really knows these certain things that I am, he's accustomed with the topic that I am asking questions. It is not like fulfilling the desired answer or desired responses only. So we should be understanding to whom I should be distributing the question. That means my sample size. Individual knowledge of the topic of the response is very much essential. Social desirability is another issue. For example, you are asking, do you really like pineapple pizza? Okay, some people might like it, but as it has created social media dilemma, like pineapple pizza is very great thing. Even though he like, he may put a no to it. Social desirability bias. Our tendency to answer surveys in a way that we think will reflect positivity on us. Even though many times we say that your identity will not be revealed, but still the respondent might think that I should be giving a socially desirable answer. So example like this, for example, you are asking directly people, do you visit library? Yes, visiting library is a good thing for our academia, so you may put yes. Or no will be very much less if you ask it to academicians. The same question you may ask it in a very different, interesting way. For example, some people loves to read at their home, some people loves to read in the coffee shop, and some people loves to read in the library. Who do love to read? So in this way, you are giving the respondents a sense of social security in when they will be going to answering the question. So probability of false answer in this question may be high, but the probability of false answer in this particular question will be very much low if you ask it in a very systematic way. Again, there are very much interesting way to frame up your questions. So this is one of the example to reduce that social desirability issue. I hope things are clear till this point. Uh, my voice is audible, right?
Sir, I have a question. Like
Yes,
as you said that in the second part, that when you're
yes.
making it a little bit long question, sir, is it for the
Mhm.
urban counterpart?
Yeah,
Is it for the city
yes,
life?
always.
Like, is it for the
Yeah,
city
yes,
life
yes.
only?
Yeah, yeah, yes, ma'am. That's what I'm coming to point. Your sample will always have an impact on the way you frame your questions. That's why sampling is an important part to what people is going to respond.
Mm-hmm.
Urban, rural, what population you give. Suppose the sampling have a very high literacy rate, even if you go in a rural place, they should be able to interpret your question. Based on that only, you have to frame the questions. That's why sampling is a very important part before going to the questionnaire set.
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes.
sir,
But
another
yes,
question.
yes, ma'am.
Sir, can you please explain the semantic differential rating scale once again, sir? The
Yes, I'm
semantic.
coming to that point.
Okay,
Yes,
sir.
yes, I will come back to that point.
Okay, sir.
So, how do we analyze a Likert scale? That thing, let's understand first. For example, this is a normal Likert scale. This is not semantic differential rating scale. Here, if you see, I have three questions. The way people drive here makes me worry about my own safety, and they have these four options, five options given. So here, if you see, this is the average rating that we are going to make. Worry about my own safety. Here, suppose someone might have own safety. Respondent one had given 2 score. That is your neither agree nor disagree. Respondent 2 have again given 2 score. Respondent 3 have given 3 score, agree. Respondent 4 have again given 3. Respondent 5 have given 3. So this is how we are going to get a score. Now what you are going to do, you will sum it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, total 9 responses are there. You sum it up and divide it by the total number of responses, and you are going to get an average. Worry about my own safety. This 2.26 is coming from that average. So we got it 2.26 out of 4. So above 50% it is getting. So we may see that there are certain population who is worried about their own safety. Now imagine, as we are taking an average, what if 4 have been put by 2 people and 1 have been put by other people? So in that average, 4 will skew the value. If I give 4 two options, 4 plus 1 and 1, average will be, if I get take 4 responses, 4 plus 8, 1 and 1, divided it by 4 responses, it will be around uh, uh, above 2. But there are 4 such responses who is giving 1 rating to that question. Even though 2 have given 4 such people are there who is giving 1 rating. So that portion is actually missing if you only go by that average option. That's why the semantic differential rating is telling us that even if you give an average rating, try to represent people who are dissatisfied in that thing. So here, suppose the question is, how safe is it to drive public street in the city? They have given this rating scale. Here, if you see, there are certain population also. 158 responses have given 4 rating out of the total responses of population. So they have a very good number who is dissatisfied. The dissatisfaction, for that we have kept a scale of 4. We have given rating 4. It will be like they are dissatisfied, and we are giving a representative of that population. Like 10% of people have given a rating of 4, even though average is 7.8. So out of 10, average rating of 7.8, we can think it's good. But there are certain population who thinks that it's not safe. 10% thinks that it is not safe. So I hope you have got the point that it is like representing
Yes, little bit,
the
sir.
bigger
Yeah.
picture.
I think
A
it's an
little bit more
extension.
clearer
It's an
way.
extension of Likert scale, probably. Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. That's what I have already
Yes,
mentioned.
yes.
It's already mentioned. It is an extension of the Likert scale.
Mhm.
And if you mix up both
Oh,
Likert and semantic
then we
rating, you
get
will
the
get a
matrix
metric
rating
scale.
scale. Yes,
Metric
got
scale.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Again, it will be dependent on your population, sample population.
Okay, sir.
Yes. So we'll come back from here again. So we should be always clear about what we are asking so that respondents get your question. We should not be asking questions to people who don't have that basic level of understanding on the topic that I am conducting survey. And yes, we should be avoiding this social desirability biasness while people is going to get the people are going to give the responses. Now, to remove this all thing, one process is there to have a cognitive interview for data collection. That means you have already set your questionnaire. You make a sample survey among 10 or 15 people. Before going for the actual data collection, in the 10 sample or 15 people pilot study, you are not interested in the data generated here, but rather interested in how participants relate with the questions and participates in the answering process. That means if I ask them, what is your date of birth? We'll ask them what the question is asking about, how the respondent arrive at the answer, and how much the respondent is sure of the answer. These three things are very much essential in this cognitive interview process. You will give the question to 10 people and will ask for each question what the question is asking about, how he arrived at the answer, and how much he is sure of the answer that he is giving. So this example, let's see. For example, I ask you how many times in last 12 months you have visited the doctor. These are the four options: 1 to 4, 5 to 8, 8 to 12, and more than 12 times. But here, if you are asking me how many times I have visited the doctor, you are not clear about if I visited the doctor for my own illness, for my friend's illness, for my mother's illness, or for someone else's illness. If I take everyone's inclusion, like how many times for my illness I visited, how many times for my mother illness I visited, how many times for my friend illness I visited, so it will be more than 12 times. And if we are analyzing the frequency of visit to the doctor, and I am visiting more than 12 times to the doctor, I may be a very chronic disease holder from this question answer. So you should be specific enough. So you ask it to 10 other people how they are interpreting the question. It can be your friends, it can be your fellow research scholars within the department, it can be anyone. You can ask it to your home people also how they are interpreting the question. And based on that, sense the vocabulary of the question if they are taking it wrong. The same question you are going to ask them what the question is asking about, how the respondent arrive at the answer, and how much the respondent is sure of the answer. If you think that they are not getting what you are asking, they are not giving proper answer to your question, probably you should change your vocabulary. Because if you don't do it, again, the same problem will follow. You will not get the desired responses for the questions. Now, analysis of the question part. Again, we have already discussed various ways of analysis, but we will understand here based on the variable how we should be understanding. Yes, it says, as you can see here, there were few downticks followed by some few upticks, finishing up with some unticks. This is what we see in any kind of research studies. But this is not what analysis is about. You should be doing analysis based on your objectives only. So there are one way of doing analysis is this is whatever I am discussing now can also be called as descriptive statistics. One is univariate analysis. The single part univariate, that means you are analyzing a single variable. For category type of questions, I have already shown you can do it through percentage, bar graph, or pie chart. That means for category type of question, it is better to go representation through some figures. For ordinary type of question also, you can go for representing through some figures because it's the most simplest and most easy way of representing the things. It is easy for the readers to understand the findings also. Now, for continuous question, the measures of central tendency, the measures of dispersion, measures of standard deviation can be used for the descriptive statistics of univariate analysis. There is again bivariate analysis also. That means looking at questions and deciding how they interact. That means if you are asking someone what is your age, and for that particular person you are also asking based on their age, you want to understand their online social media behavior or online shopping behavior based on their age. So two questions you have to correlate. Then in that case, we are going to call it as bivariate analysis. That means two variables we are comparing. So one way of doing bivariate analysis is through cross tabulation. Association between two type of question. I will give an example of this cross tabulation. Another method is category type of question. That means you relate category question and continuous question, comparison of gender with their income. Yes, we can do scatter plot analysis also, like relationship between two continuous type of question, like understanding correlation, doing regression analysis, like this. So what is cross tabulation? Cross tabulation is what we are going to make a detailed breakup of the data that we are going to do. Suppose I have an age question, I have a male and female gender question. So I will be responding my age is 20, I am male. There will be one person who will be responding my age is 18, I am female. So all questioner will generate different ways of answer of the various question we ask, which we will call as variables. So what cross tabulation we can do is that we can combine these variables and give a single table so that it will be easier for the readers to understand. Okay, in my response, suppose there are 56 people, 53% were male, then 12 were female. So it is giving a very metric way of representing the thing. Then for that purpose, we can give this mixed bar diagram from 46 to 55 in the age range. There were this percentage were male, this percentage were female. So it is easier for the people to understand the analysis of this type of questions. Again, like we have a descriptive statistics. Suppose what is the online shopping preference of male and female. If I give a Likert scale to them, the mean of the population female is this, mean of the population male is this. Again, there may be more. If you go to a more rigorous way, you can have a standard deviation idea also. This is a descriptive way of presenting the findings. Yes, you can have a scatter plot. That means understanding the relation between two continuous variables. Suppose this is a graph of performance or participation of people in online lecture and their IT skill, if they are correlated. So in this way, you can present a scatter plot diagram also. These all are whatever I am discussing are part of descriptive statistics for a questionnaire based on the question that you have in your questionnaire. Now you can have some other inferential statistics also. These are the various inferential statistics that you can draw based on the question, type of question. For example, you can run a one-way IQAC case. If one category is statistically larger than the other one. For example, here suppose you see male percentage is very much high than the female. So in that case, you can run a one-way IQAC case to fulfill your inferential statistics. Yes, you can obviously run t-test if you want to identify the mean, if the differential mean is very much significant or not. If the differential mean is already appearing is based on your data, not by chance or by luck they are appearing, like that you can also run t-test for inferential statistics. Yes, always you can have ANOVA if you have more than two groups in your study. Now I am coming to the conclusion part of my presentation. So if I have to sum it up, till now what we have discussed the issue of various dependencies of designing a questionnaire. Then we have discussed what are the various types of closed and open-ended question that may be there in a questionnaire set. And now we have also come up what are the various limitations that we may have got in a questionnaire set. Removing that biasness is very much essential to get proper concrete data set, and then running some inferential statistics. Now, point here is that this is a very interesting scenario, the situation and scenario leading to similar questionnaire. Many of you have faced this issue. What is the issue of plagiarism in a questionnaire set? If I am conducting a survey, can someone copy my questions and do the survey, and will that fall under plagiarism? If you can give your responses, what is your perception? If participants can tell us, what do you think, that copy of questionnaire is plagiarism or not? If you can give your opinion. Probably many of you have faced this. Like you are conducting a survey, someone have copied your questionnaire and they have already collected data, already given a conference paper, even though you are making a questionnaire for a thesis. Have you faced this issue? Anyone of you have faced this issue? Because if you have faced this issue, probably you can have a solution if you can claim the copyright of the findings. Because this problem is not prominent enough. This problem is not, even though not prominent in established fields, because we already have some set of questionnaire. If you go to psychology field, if someone of you are from education background, like we have a standard questionnaire like this one. World Health Organization Quality of Life. They have a questionnaire set. If we want to conduct a study on quality of life in the village area, they have a preferred set of questionnaire. Hospital anxiety and depression scale. People from medicinal center use it. Miniosta multiphasic personality inventory. These are already preset questionnaire. So whenever you will be using this questionnaire, they will cite you. You have to cite those questionnaire. But what if someone copies a single question from my thesis, which they think is very much essential for them also? Again, we have to understand that plagiarism is not about how similar two things are. It's about whether someone is using someone else's work as their own. So the issue of plagiarism is still active in questionnaire designing also. If you want to use someone else's questionnaire or a very small portion of 2-3 questions from other question, you should have a proper permission for that. Even though it may not be a prominent well-established questionnaire field or well-established acceptable questionnaire set, Even if you copy someone, like what is your satisfaction level of using social media, or what is your satisfaction level of something, that may not be a copyrighted question. But if you are giving a close-ended question, like 4 or 5 options to a particular question, what are the problem you face in your personal life if you go for using social media? If you are given 4 options, someone also have copied those 4 options, then it may be issue of plagiarism. That means some close-ended questions, if you give some options to that, which you think is very much essential or is a USP of your study, that can be come under plagiarism. So it's better to give citation to the previous studies. So in that way, you will be also avoiding the issue of plagiarism. You will also mentioning the previous studies that already have been done. So this should be always taken care of. But continuously, if the same time two types of surveys are getting conduct, then it's very hard to establish the plagiarism fact. Probably at that time, a mutual discussion among the scholars will be more beneficial. So I'll be concluding with these 3 opinions with all of you. Be responsible while you should be asking questioner. Responsibility in a sense, your questionnaire should be not long enough. For example, and finally question 50, do you ever feel to like killing someone? If you question a 50 question, imagine that amount of time the respondents have to give to your questionnaire. So always be brief in your questionnaire process. Be specific what you are asking. Be concrete. Have a proper methodology of setting 2 or 3 questions for each of the objectives that you have set. So in that way, probably your questionnaire will be limited. Have a thorough reading of what has already been done. Do a proper literature review. In that way, probably you will be able to concrete a good questionnaire set, which is short enough and which respondents will be happy to give responses. Again, always respect people's privacy while responding or framing a questionnaire. Don't ask too much of personal level questions which may be making them uncomfortable to answer. Respect people's privacy. And the last point is, don't compel them to answer people. Like this joke is asking, just answer our questions and you won't get hurt. So don't do it in that way. Don't compel people to answer. If people just, you can have a reminder, okay, sir, please give responses to my question, but don't compel them to answer our questions. So always in the question setting process, be responsible, be thoughtful, be constructive enough so that you get proper responses to the questions, and always have a proper research design. That means identification of statistical measures is one of the very key essential point of having a good questionnaire, and identification of the samples to whom from whom we are going to collect the data, that is also a very critical essential part of responsible questionnaire design. So with this I am summing up my uh, discussion to all of you. So I hope it was understandable to all of you.
Thank you, sir. Your valuable tips on questionnaire designing will be highly beneficial for the researchers. Now, if the participants have any more queries, they can ask, sir.
Dear participants, please ask if you have any doubts. I think no doubts.
Okay. So before concluding, I just want to give my sincere appreciation to Dr. Pranjal Mora, the principal of Tulunga Model College, Dr. Nitashi Bormon, the coordinator IQAC ma'am, Dr. Porak Pasani and Dr. Bonosri Dekada, coordinator of the workshop, and all the members of organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to interact with the participants of this workshop. I hope my workshop will be at least 2-3 sentences will be available to any of the participants. It will be beneficial for me also. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, thank you, Dr. Koshikishore Fukun sir, resource person of first session, and Dr. Deepjyoti Kalita sir, resource person of second session, for your nice presentations. I think today's presentations were to the points. So I hope all the participants have benefited from the deliberations of today's resource persons. They have really presented the best way they can, so that the participants will have insightful experience. So thank you very much for this to all the resource persons, as well as my dear participants, for your interactions with the resource persons. Thank you to all.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, I think there's no questions, so I would like to request moderator of today's sessions kindly conclude the session.
Thank you. Thank you, the research person of our first session, Dr. Kosiki Sufukan sir. He has covered beautifully all the different sampling methods. And our research person for second session, Dr. Dipjyoti Kalita sir, has delivered his talk regarding regarding the designing of questionnaire, how to choose questions while we construct our question. I think those two sessions will be highly beneficial for the researchers. With this remark, I would like to conclude the day 3 of a 5-day FDP program. And thank you, all the participants. Good night.